Hey guys, it's Thomas from Marathon Handbook here, and today we're going to be talking all about how to run a sub 4-hour marathon. So we're going to be talking about training and all your training runs. We're going to be talking about pace strategy on race day, and we're going to be covering some tips and tactics for race day itself. So let's get into it. So there are actually a couple of books already published on the theme of running a sub 4-hour marathon. First one, 4 months to a 4-hour marathon, is by Runner's World editor. This is a pretty good book in terms of pretty comprehensive first marathon training or general marathon preparation. It's got a training plan, it's got a lot of general tips about everything about running a marathon, but it doesn't get too much into detail as to exactly how to beat the 4-hour mark. The second book it's actually written by me, 4-Hour Marathon, The Bulletproof Guide to Breaking the 4-Hour Barrier. And the whole point of this book was to take that goal of running a sub 4-hour marathon and reverse engineer a pace strategy and therefore a training plan all built around beating that goal. So along with the book, there's a training plan. I've linked to the training plan below. You can go and grab a free copy. The whole idea of the training plan is it sets out over 20 weeks all the training runs you need to do, including it gives you the pace that you should be running each run at. So I'm going to get into these training runs in a little bit in this video. Okay, so why is 4 hours such an important benchmark for marathon runners anyway? Well, if you look at the average marathon times, depending where you look, the average marathon time tends to be somewhere around 4 hours and 15 minutes and 4 hours and 30 minutes, which means if you can run a sub 4-hour marathon, you're faster than average. If you can run a sub 4-hour marathon, it's also testament to two parts of your fitness, your endurance and your speed, because you need good speed to be able to run 26.2 miles in under 4 hours, but you also need decent endurance to be able to maintain that pace. Running a sub 4-hour marathon is also just about that point where runners tend to hit the wall, somewhere around the mile between 20 and 23 usually. Often runners hit the wall around there and it really impacts their finishing time. So if you can still get in under 4 hours, you're doing quite well. Okay, so the next thing to think about is how long it's going to take you to train for a sub 4-hour marathon. And it really changes from person to person. Some people adapt quicker. A lot of it depends on your running background and your running experience. But in general, if you're a brand new runner, if you've got very little previous running experience, it's going to take you at least 5 months to get ready to run a sub 4-hour marathon, because you need to develop not only your endurance, but also your speed. In fact, if you're a brand new runner, I would probably recommend first of all you tackle a half marathon and then even tackle a marathon without the pressure of trying to run a sub 4-hour marathon. What you want to do is make your first attempt at a marathon one in which you're exploring how well you do running for 26.2 miles, get a feeling of what your pace, your comfortable natural pace is, and then after that you can layer in some speed training to try and hit the sub 4-hour mark. If you're an intermediate, or novice or intermediate runner, then you're likely going to need around 20 weeks to get ready for your sub 4-hour marathon. This includes time to build up your distance, your long run distance, and also some time to add in some training midweek. It can help you work on your speed too. In fact, the free training plan I offer is actually 20 weeks long. If you're a well-tuned runner and you're well accustomed to running long distances, maybe you've run a bunch of marathons before, maybe you've even run a sub 4-hour marathon before, you're likely going to need between 16 and 20 weeks to get ready. You can choose to follow this training plan, or maybe you can choose to customize it or follow an even shorter or more intense training plan. Okay, so if you're not sure where you sit and if you're ready to start training for a sub 4-hour marathon, my best advice is download the training plan and start the first week. If you can complete the first week, it's a pretty good test whether you can continue with the training, see how you go. So follow the first week. Very important that you stick to the pace that's outlined in the training plan. If you can stick to that, you're in good shape to keep continuing with the training plan. Okay, so when we're thinking about running a sub 4-hour marathon, a lot of people are focused solely on their own preparation, their own training. But in fact, one important aspect is to choose a race that's actually got favorable conditions, which is going to give you a fast time. So you want to be thinking about a marathon course that is flat. It should be cool temperature. so you don't overheat, you don't get too hot. You don't want any wind, because running with side wind, crosswind, or a headwind is a complete nightmare. You don't want huge crowds, so for example, the London Marathon isn't a good marathon to try a sub 4 hour marathon often, because at the start you can get surrounded by crowds, by hundreds of people, and it makes it impossible for you to follow your own pace. At low altitude, you don't want to go to some high altitude marathon and find you're struggling to breathe as you normally would. And then favorable underfoot conditions. So you don't want to choose a trail marathon, for example, because you're going to be slower. So ideally you want some kind of town or city marathon that's on very favorable underfoot conditions, as flat as possible, takes place on a cool morning, and nice easy conditions. Okay guys, the next thing to touch on is marathon pace. So unless you are a competitive runner or a very experienced marathon runner, my advice to you is you should aim to run your marathon at an even pace throughout 26.2 miles. In other words, you should be starting the run at the same speed, follow the speed all the way through, and finish the run at the same speed. That should be your aim. Now there's a bunch of benefits to an even pace strategy for a marathon, but just a couple are that it's very conservative at the start, because you're going to find you've got loads of energy, loads of adrenaline, and you'll find that you actually need to consciously slow yourself down, and loads of people will probably pass you, but that's fine, because what it's doing is keeping a bunch of your energy in reserves for the second half of the race when most people really slow down. The second benefit of the even pace strategy is that we know months in advance what your race pace is going to be. So we know how fast you need to run a sub 4 hour marathon. So we can now train towards that pace from months before your marathon. And that's exactly what we've done with the sub 4 hour marathon training plan. We've reverse engineered, based on a 4 hour marathon pace, a training plan. So guys, the next thing I want to mention is you want to build in a little bit of a buffer when planning your 4 hour marathon pace. So you don't want to be planning to run a 3 hour, 59 minute and 59 second marathon, because on marathons, the unexpected can happen, right guys? So what happens during a marathon is you get fatigued and you slow down towards the end, or maybe you get tight calves, tight legs, and you need to take a walking break. Maybe you need to go to the toilet once or twice during the run because of stomach issues that you hadn't planned for. Or maybe you even just get held up in crowds near the start of the marathon, so you lose some time there. But basically guys, highly advisable that you build in a 5 to 10 minute buffer in any pace strategy for a 4 hour marathon, which is why the pace I'm about to give you guys already builds in a 10-minute buffer. In other words guys, I'm about to give you a pace that gets you in, if you held this pace consistently, it gets you in at 3 hours and 50 minutes. Okay guys, so my recommended pace to guarantee a sub 4 hour marathon is 8 minutes and 46 seconds per mile, which is also 5 minutes and 27 seconds per kilometer. So whether you work in miles or kilometers, you want to burn that pace into the back of your head on race day. We'll also be using it a lot in training, as you're about to find out. And you want to stick to that pace in your GPS. You can go slightly slower, a couple of seconds per mile or per kilometer slower, because we've got the buffer in there. You can also go slightly faster if you're finding it easy, but you don't want to go too much faster, because then you're unnecessarily burning energy, and all you want to do is beat the 4 hour mark, right? One more point of note guys, a GPS device, a GPS watch is basically mandatory for what I'm recommending here. Not only for your training, but also for race day. It's very important that you can monitor your instantaneous speed and figure out if you're hitting the goals you need to be hitting to beat the sub 4 hour marathon. So if you don't already have a GPS device, check out my link below. I've got a bunch of recommendations which I update regularly. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the 4 hour marathon training plan and the training runs. So guys, in the training plan, there are 3 different types of run workouts you're gonna encounter. The first one is your regular training runs. These are all about just getting mileage in, building your weekly mileage, getting used to running, improving your running economy. And guys, for the sub 4 hour marathon training plan, you should be doing your training runs at your target race pace. So that target race pace I just mentioned, you want to be aiming to do all your training runs at that pace. Reason is this basically gets you accustomed to running at that pace. It's almost like muscle memory. It should just be dialed in there so your body gets more and more comfortable running at that pace. Guys, the second type of run workout you'll find in the sub 4 hour marathon training plan is speed work. And when I'm talking about speed work, I typically recommend interval training just because in this specific training plan, it's good to be able to quantify exactly the distance and speed I want you guys to be running, and interval training is the easiest way to do that. So guys, interval training, you're going to be running fast intervals followed by recovery intervals. I've given you the speed in the training plan. The whole purpose of speed training is makes you a faster runner, makes you a more economical runner, so you get more economical and more comfortable running at that sub 4 hour marathon pace. Guys, if you're already finding it super easy to run at the sub 4 hour marathon pace, maybe the speed work isn't so important. Likewise, if you find yourself getting fatigued or you find yourself getting the onset of minor injuries or hot spots after speed work, don't be afraid to miss it out. It's probably the first run workout of the training plan you should just ditch, but it's pretty good in terms of pushing your body in a different way, training it to run faster so it's more robust, it's more agile, and it's more comfortable at the sub 4 hour marathon pace. And the third type of run workout you're going to find in the training plan is the weekly long runs. So guys, weekly long runs are all about building endurance. They gradually get longer until they max out, I think it's around 20 miles or 21 miles. And the whole point of your long runs is you need to do them at a nice, relaxed, comfortable, conversational pace. In other words, you should be running your long runs at a pace at which you could hold a conversation with somebody next to you. Guys, the whole point of long runs, it's nothing to do with speed. It's all about endurance. So if you think about race day, on race day, you have to combine speed and endurance. You have to run fast for a long time and combine them on race day. But in our training, the most effective way to train is to separate these two out. Focus on speed during the week with your training runs and your speed work, and focus on endurance with your long runs. A lot of people make the mistake of trying to do their long runs at race pace all the time, and this doesn't serve them well. The reason is basically you're putting too much load, too much strain on your body. You're pushing yourself too hard and you're not going to see the results you expect. Not only that, but it takes longer to recover, so it ends up impacting your whole training week. Everything kind of starts to snowball and compound. You quickly get burnout, fatigue, exhaustion, you develop injuries. So the most effective way to train, guys, separate that out. Your speed and your endurance. Do the majority of your long runs at a nice, slow, comfortable pace. Having said that, a lot of people get nervous when they see this because they think, okay, on race day, I need to run 26.2 miles at a fast pace. How do I know I'm even capable of that if in training all my long runs have been at a super easy pace? So guys, it's definitely a valid concern. It's why on the training plan, if you check it out, you'll see we've included 1 half marathon that you should be running at the sub 4 hour marathon pace. If you're still a little bit nervous about this, there's no issues in doing every third or fourth long run at the sub 4 hour marathon pace. If you can, do them on the step back weeks. Those are the weeks that are slightly shorter. Just be conscious if you're going to try and do this that you're probably going to feel it more the next day. It's going to take you longer to recover. Be very mindful of that. You might have to skip a workout, the subsequent workout, to make sure you've recovered fully before picking up again. Okay, so what happens if you're not at the level yet of running a training run at the sub 4 hour marathon pace? Well guys, if you've got any doubts whether you're ready or not, my recommendation is grab the training plan, try and start. If you're not able to complete the first week, you're probably biting off a little bit more than you can chew. Go for one of my easier plans where it's just focused on completing a marathon without worrying about the speed, and then come back to the sub 4 hour marathon goal in a few months or next year. Basically guys, before you start this training plan, you should be able to run at least 3 miles or 5 kilometers at that sub 4 hour marathon pace. If you can't already do that, you should probably reassess your goals for now and come back to this sub 4 hour marathon goal in a year or 2. Hey guys, so that's my guide to running a sub 4 hour marathon. Basically, just to recap, you want to take that 4 hour marathon goal, build yourself in 10 minutes of buffer, work out how fast you need to run to cover the rest using an even pace strategy, and then train towards that pace. Guys, it's exactly what I've outlined in the training plan. You can download it below. I'll also include a link to the book. More importantly, you can check out my marathon training masterclass where I go into all this stuff in much more detail. It's where I've really put everything I know and everything I try and guide people towards regarding marathon training is in this 6-hour course. Go and check it out. Otherwise guys, check out marathonhandbook.com. Give the video a like if you've liked it. If you've used this training plan already, share your experiences below. Let us know what you think. Let us know what's missing. And otherwise, I'll see you guys soon.